At the end of last week's video, you saw us headed out of St. Augustine.
How do we look? We sexy?
This week, we start off anchored on the Matanzas River, right next to Fort Matanzas.
Well, we made it! It was a huge 2.5 hour day. Anyway, we've made it to a place called Fort Matanzas. We loved exploring this area. It was one of the first places that we actually wanted to get in the water. But unfortunately, our visit here is cut short when our little generator abruptly dies, leaving us with no way to generate power except our main engine. But we'll get back to that more in a little bit. Look at this place. It is beautiful. Fort Matanzas National Monument preserves the fortified Coquina Watchtower that protected the southern access to St. Augustine. It also protects approximately 300 acres of Florida coastal environment, including dunes, marshes, and maritime forest, and all other plants and animals, including some threatened and endangered species. While there are many things to do at the Fort Matanzas National Monument, there's only one way to get to the fort. The National Park Service offers free, interpretive, ranger-led tours to Rattlesnake Island and the fort, accessed by an hourly ferry on most days. Alright, let's go check out Fort Matanzas.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we're touristing in.
Love it.
Only problem is I seem to have lost my Tilly hat. We can't find it anywhere, so. We dinghied ashore with some time before the next ferry, so we went to explore the marsh trail. Aria spotted hundreds of these tiny little crabs rushing back into their burrows as we walked along.
Vehicles make... Give me a crabby.
Oh, it doesn't even look like a crab.
These are crabs. Whoa, he's moving. I got a crabby.
Let's go check out this fort. Fort Matanzas was built by the Spanish in 1742 to guard Matanzas Inlet, the southern mouth of the Matanzas River. Such an approach avoided St. Augustine's primary defense system centered around Castillo de San Marco. We made it!
Mm-hmm.
Fort Matanzas, baby!
Woohoo! Ready for some history.
Yeah. In 1740, Governor James Oglethorpe of Georgia used the inlet to blockade and lay siege to St. Augustine for 39 days. St. Augustine withstood the siege, but this incident convinced the Spanish government that protecting the inlet was necessary for the safety of St. Augustine. The fort, known to the Spanish as Torre de Matanzas or Matanzas Tower, is a masonry structure constructed of coquina, a common shellstone building material in the area.
This is the only Spanish watchtower in the continental United States and one of only 2 defensive fortifications made out of coquina.
The standard garrison of the fort was 1 officer, 4 infantrymen, and 2 gunners, but could easily be augmented with more troops from St. Augustine. 5 cannons were placed at the fort, 4 6-pounders and 1 18-pounder. All of which could fire the distance to the inlet. The ranger told us that at that time, the shape and layout of the inlet was considerably different than it is today. The range for all the cannons to the inlet was about a half a mile. In 1742, as the fort was nearing completion, the British, under Oglethorpe, approached the inlet with 12 warships. Cannon fire from the fort drove off the scouting ships, and the 12 warships left without engaging the fort. This brief encounter was the only time that Fort Matanzas ever fired on an enemy. Spain lost control of Florida with the Paris Treaty of 1763, and regained control of Florida with the Paris Treaty of 1783. But with the Spanish Empire falling apart, little to no effort was spent on the fort after that. When the United States took control of Florida in 1821, the fort had deteriorated to a point where soldiers could no longer live inside. The United States never used the fort, and it fell into ruin. In 1916, the U.S. Department of War began a major restoration of the badly deteriorated fort. By 1924, 3 vertical fissures in the wall had been completely repaired and the structure stabilized. In that same year, National Monument status was proclaimed.
We really enjoyed our time here at the fort and checking out the surrounding area.
Unfortunately, one of our little tiny SD cards seems to have failed us, and all of the footage from this camera for this entire time in Matanzas is all gone.
We've tried to use our phones to fill in some of the missing gaps and missing footage, but I mean, they're not as good as the good cameras, so it doesn't really do the beauty of this place justice, unfortunately.
It really doesn't, does it? Mm-mm. Oh well, sorry.
By far, our favorite place here was this little stream, or what we thought was a little stream.
Yeah, I think it was just like a beach berm had trapped a bunch of water from high tide, and it sort of trapped it in this like series of pools that slowly trickled out.
The water was perfectly clear and refreshing and warm and relaxing on these hot days.
Absolutely. And we even had a visitor in one of these pools. On what ended up being our last morning in Matanzas, I woke up and spotted this eagle sitting on the fort. It was quite the spectacular sight. Unfortunately, if you listen carefully, just after the eagle flies off, you can actually hear our generator seize in the background. All right. Well, not the best morning. We've been here at Fort Matanzas, Matanzas River for 2-3 days now.
Yeah.
And we've been really enjoying our time here. Did the fort tour behind us there, and beach time and a bunch of other hanging out. And we had planned to stay today as well and get some editing done. And Arya's working on a school project right now that they're trying to get wrapped up. But when I started our little Yamaha 2000 inverter generator, it ran for about 30 seconds to a minute, and it seems to have died. We've been having a little bit of trouble lately with it. It got new oil in it maybe 30 hours ago. The spark arrestor was having some issues, was kind of clogged up without me realizing it, and that got serviced. And anyway, it seems to be dead, like dead, like seized, like I can't pull the rope dead. This generator is 8 years old and has probably, I don't know,
I don't know how many hours.
like a few thousand hours on it. It was used extensively for hunting and camping and all kinds of other stuff.
And we've been working it hard since we left.
Exactly, because our battery bank on this boat is pretty big. We've got the inverter turned down considerably so that it's trying not to overload the generator. But we've definitely been working it relatively hard since we moved aboard the boat because of our lack of solar. So now we have decisions to make. We've already made one decision. We're going to light out of here right now. We're about an hour and a half later leaving than we would have liked to if we had planned to leave today.
But we didn't.
But we didn't plan to leave today, so we're just going to go for it, and we should be able to make it to Daytona Beach today, and we'll do some research and try and figure out what we're doing on our way there.
Yep. Thank you for watching this week. We sincerely appreciate your support.
We really want to take a minute and say thank you to all of our new patrons, and an extra special thank you to the names that you're seeing on screen now for going above and beyond to support our channel. Thank you so much.
See you next week.
Bye!